You got me. Hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my Takeout, my Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. And there are a lot. I mean, yesterday I went on. I talked about it being my father's birthday. I thought it was historic just on the one thing, right? The one thing on Donald Trump, right? On the SCOTUS hearing over the 14th Amendment, and the Supreme Court justices didn't do, I mean, like, how many questions on the insurrection? I didn't hear any. So, very disappointed. But then we were on before the big report by Robert Hur, the special prosecutor on the Biden documents case. And he essentially found nothing. He said, we can't prosecute. There's no prosecution. But he had to get his dig in to Joe Biden, and that's all that everyone's talking about. Because the dig is, hey, he's an old man. He's got a poor memory. We're not going to put a sympathetic old man on the jury. Totally irrelevant. Had no place in the special prosecutor's report, but there it was. And so, for a number of different reasons, February 8th, my father's birthday, he would have been 119, is going to have a special place in American history, I think. Especially if it has something to do with a certain former president, twice impeached, 4 times indicted, 91 criminal counts, felony counts. If it has anything to do with that guy getting reelected, or elected for a second time. So we got a lot to talk about today. Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez will be joining me. It's Friday. Of course, I love to have Dan on with me because we belong in that demographic, the older American demographic, and I'm sure we have a lot to say about that. Also, if you stick around, I'll talk to you about all my appearances coming up. I'm going to be at the Improv, the Hollywood Improv, in a couple weeks. Yeah, you have to fast forward if you're hearing a recording. I'm going to be at the Rogue Festival, the Fringe Festival of Fresno. There is such a thing. And Fresno is on the fringe. It deserves it. The Rogue Festival is a great festival. I'm going to be appearing there in March 2nd. I'll say it at the end of the show. I'm also going to be at the New York City Fringe, the old Frigid Fringe. It's now the Fringe, New York City Fringe, in April, and then in May I'm going to be in Orlando. So I'm all over the place doing my Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, new iteration, vegan, trans dad. I mean, there's all sorts of stories I have to share with you. So all that's coming up. And of course, we're going to talk about the news here. If you listen to my show, I mean, I'm going to put out a new column on the ALDEF blog, Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog. But I put this out yesterday before the show, Citizen Willie versus Citizen Trump. And there's a really cute picture of me when I was a small boy, and my father was in a zoot suity Filipino with a tie. Yeah, yesterday was his birthday. Willie Guillermo, born under the American flag in the colonial America that was the Philippines. So he would have been 119. And had he stopped eating pork at a reasonable age and gone vegan, he'd still be with us. So, of course, that was in the back of my mind all through the Trump proceedings yesterday at the Supreme Court. I mean, get this. Here's an odd coincidence. My father actually died on the day of Trump's birthday. He did. Would Trump's political life die at a Supreme Court hearing on my father's birthday? That was the question that I openly embrace. I thought, yeah, that could happen, because earlier in the week, right, it started with the DC Federal Appeals Court that ruled that Trump is not immune from criminal prosecution for his actions related to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And then on Thursday, my father's birthday, the Supreme Court heard arguments on whether Trump should be kicked off the Republican ballot in Colorado based on the 14th Amendment, Section 3, that bars people, quote, engaged in insurrection from holding office. Now, if you go to Section 3, if you Google it, Section 3, 14th Amendment, it's pretty clear. It should be pretty clear. But, you know, if you have engaged in insurrection or rebellion, you can't hold it. Says no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president. So you can't be an elector or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States. I mean, it really does include the president. Are you going to argue that it doesn't include the president? That's how ridiculous the pro-Trump lawyer was. But it looks like, based on the questions from the Supreme Court, the court is leaning towards saying, yeah, the 14th Amendment doesn't apply. And maybe it's because of that last graph in the clause. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. And so it sounds like, hey, the court's going to say the 14th Amendment doesn't apply. Trump belongs on the ballot. Congress is the place where they should figure out if someone belongs on the ballot or not. But a lot of the questions had to do with whether or not can one state disenfranchise other voters in other states. Well, no, one state can deal with one state, and then it'll be up to the other states. The same thing that they're doing with abortion. You take away one state's right, or women in one state's rights away. Well, it's each and every state right now. This is the inconsistency I don't like about this political court, because that's what it is, a political court. Now, surely they would mention insurrection, but they didn't. I mean, they didn't really go into the how Trump led the rally January 6, 2021, urged his followers to fight like hell. And even the Trump lawyer, Jonathan Mitchell, had to admit that, well, it's not an insurrection, it's more a riot. It was a violent riot. We despise what happened, but it wasn't an insurrection. Oh, come on. Look, my father, Filipino American. He was born in the Philippines under the American flag. He knows, and generally Filipinos know. We know the good insurrectionists from the bad insurrectionists. Donald Trump was a bad insurrectionist. Come on, the Filipinos were the original insurrectionists. Revolutionaries fighting against the U.S. imperial forces in 1899. I like those guys. I don't like the bad insurrectionists. And as a Filipino, I can tell them apart. So, like I said in my column, I think my dad, people like to say, well, if I was a betting man, well, my dad was a betting man. He bet on horses, though. But if he were alive today, I would talk him out of betting on horses and talk him into betting on SCOTUS decisions, and because they're just as unpredictable. But based on the questions asked by the SCOTUS members, I would say they're leaning toward an 8-1 or maybe even a 9-0 vote to reject Colorado's ruling, and then Trump gets on the ballot. But then that means when this second case comes up, and the second case being the Trump immunity case, that'll allow the court to say, oh, we won't rule on that. And so the court will look very Solomonic, right? I mean, really, it just surprised me that, but I think that's going to be the scenario. Now, the immunity case, the DC Court of Appeals case that rejected Trump's claim of absolute immunity for criminal actions committed while president. My father would agree with that wholeheartedly. And, the court ruled that any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against prosecution. And he would be screaming and yelling and say, yes, hooray, hooray, hooray. But he would be on the moon with a statement by the court that read, today we affirm the denial. For the purpose of the criminal case, former President Trump has become Citizen Trump with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant. Amen, right? Because the key word is citizen. My father knows the rights of citizens are not insignificant. He knows because for so many years, when he first arrived in 1928, he was denied that right. He was non-citizen Willie Guillermo from the day he entered the country because he was considered a colonized American, an American national. He couldn't vote, he couldn't own land, couldn't intermarry, he had no rights, not until after World War II. And that's when he became Citizen Willie. So Citizen Willie, he knows that Citizen Trump will have more rights than he needs. I just know that my dad would have been disappointed yesterday because that Colorado ballot initiative or issue, he'd be disappointed in the high court because he'd have his doubts about a court so willing to take away abortion rights and voting rights from women and people of color, but ready to uphold the rights of a bad insurrectionist. And that's how Citizen Willie would feel. Because yesterday was his birthday. But I know he'd be outraged at age 119 to see that Robert Hur, the special prosecutor, has said all these discriminatory things about Joe Biden, who would be younger than my dad. My dad at 119. Let me bring in Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus, Asian American Studies, friend of the show, and lawyer. So, Dan.
I am not a practicing attorney, although I keep getting messages from people who want legal assistance from me. But
all right, not a practicing attorney, but trained as an attorney.
Yes, like on the paper kind of training.
On the paper. All right, so just like a good dog, trained on the paper.
Yes, and bad puppy.
And you know it. So tell me, what did you think about Robert Hur and the special prosecutor? He's Asian American, Korean American.
Yep.
I think he went above and below the call of duty. He could have said, all he had to say was Joe Biden is not going to be charged. There's not going to be any special thing because the evidence isn't there. We can't get him. That's all he had to say. End of report. Not 300.
Yeah, I like your above because he went as far as using the word willfully.
Yeah.
And that sounds really condemnatory. But the reality is willfully includes mere negligence. So you could screw up, right? And that's considered willful, but it doesn't rise to the level of intent required for certain crimes. Okay. So, for example, when you try to measure the degree of culpability for a homicide, you have four different levels of homicide. First degree, second degree, and then below the line is what I call it, the manslaughters. And you have voluntary and involuntary manslaughter, and that's where the level of negligence and obviously a lack of intent come into play. And so when he says willful, it's not a high level of intent. It merely means that he knew at one time or another that he was keeping these things. Okay. The question is, was it mere negligence, or was it clear intention? And you can't tell, because he returned the stuff as soon as he realized he had it,
Right.
or his staff realized it, or his attorneys were informed that he had this stuff. They sent it right back, and
Fully,
so
fully
that's
cooperated. Fully cooperated. So
yeah, yeah.
different.
Well, and that's where the line of differentiation occurs. But our friends on the right have habitually done what? They've always tried to draw equivalencies. And so they're simply trying to draw an equivalence between Biden and Trump. And obviously, there's no equivalence. And at least the minimum that he did was he said uh, that there's no comparison, that
Right.
Trump has been charged because he allegedly did one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, you know,
Yeah.
and it was very clear by the time you get to seven that he was getting other people to lie for him. Okay, so
Yeah.
clearly, not only is there a position of documents case, there's also an obstruction of justice case against Trump, all wrapped up with a nice little bow in this one major case.
Yeah,
So
and that's why it's different from the case that was not that just wasn't there for against Biden. So the special
yeah.
prosecutor, they no, we can't. We're not prosecuting.
Well, and you could ask, why is it then, if we knew that this prosecution was fake, right? That it wouldn't go anywhere. Why then did the attorney general appoint a special counsel to do this work?
Yeah.
Okay, now you can
Well,
understand what Mr. Trump was doing when he was office, and he got a special counsel to hunt down information on, no pun intended, on Hunter Biden and the corruption of the Biden family, and he came up empty as well. And that
yeah.
was that was a Trump prosecution, or I should, yeah. Well, it was an attempted prosecution. It was a Trump
Right.
persecution at the very least, and he came up empty as well. So, do you think that? Do you think it was merely politically desirable on the part of Merrick Garland?
I
In
think Merrick
general,
Garland.
he knew that there was, yeah,
Yeah, I think Merrick Garland just wanted to show that hey, the, the Democrats can do the right thing, and I think they also know that if the case was going to be a slam dunk for Biden, if you had you put a Republican there, and if they were playing fair, and they would find that would strengthen. That's the idea. That's what I'm thinking. And
yeah, and I agree with that. I think
and
that's
when
a good
Robert Hur,
analysis.
when
So this
Robert
was a
Hur,
major. This was really a political motivation, not a legal motivation.
right, and when Robert Hur was appointed, Robert Hur, I remember doing a column on it saying, okay, here's Robert Hur. He's the Asian American of the hour. He says if something's there, it's gonna he's gonna say it. And if it's worthy of prosecution, he'll state the case, make and say why. And he sounded like a straight shooter. And until yesterday, I thought, oh well, Robert Hur, he's an Asian American with integrity. But after yesterday, I don't know. I
No,
think
no, he looks very political as of yesterday,
as of yesterday,
especially when he took the ageist, when he really bannered, right, his
yeah,
findings, and said we can't really find the level of intent required to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, right?
yeah. But
Uh,
then how about this? When he said, and look, we're not going to prosecute him because why would we
he's
put
elderly. He's
yeah.
elderly and got a bad memory.
Well, why would we put someone like that who would look sympathetic to a jury? So we don't want to win that kind of case. But we're going to tell you all these extraneous reasons, these extraneous kind of thoughts that don't belong in a special prosecutor's report.
Why,
But we're
why
going to
did
tell
he
you,
why did he even ask Biden those kinds of questions? If he indeed, the only way that he could say that even happened
Yeah.
is because he asked questions
Well,
about
no.
Hunter
Yeah.
Biden's death, okay, and about certain events that occurred during the time that Biden was vice president.
Well, here's the thing, Dan. Her was appointed January of 2023, almost a year ago.
Yeah,
I would think, and he's not interviewing Biden till October. I
right.
would think, I would think that he had enough to file a report within 6 months of his appointment last January, in January 2023, and then he looked over and said, "What can I do to improve my myself, advance my political career, my cause? How can I help the Republican Party?" I think that's sort of what went on in his mind. And then he did this self-interest thing that would give him cover, because everything in politics is about cover. Can you say one thing but know that you would be covered because it would appear ambiguous, or because I'm doing this in the name of ethical jurisprudence, I'm trying to get to the bottom of this, but I'm gonna like get my jabs in too. And I think
Okay,
that
well, I agree with all that, but okay, the question when you're talking about covering, as you suggest, okay, is whether it's prefatory covering. In other words, you know there's going to be a problem, and so you devise a story, right, or a narrative of some sort that's going to cover you because you can predict how things are going to go. And then there's ex post facto. You get surprised by an outcome, and so you have to come up with an after the fact rationale that you can use for public cover. And it's always there's always this distinction to be made
mm,
between public cover and private cover, right?
mm,
And in this instance, I think it's more than cover. I agree with you that that's going to be in the vast majority of instances, it's going to be about cover, particularly when people don't get what they hoped they would get.
right, like a clear path toward prosecution of President Biden.
Exactly. Exactly. I absolutely agree with you on that. But I think he was going further than that. I think he was worried that he was going to get a lot of flack if he simply did the thing that he was supposed to do, which was to simply state,
Oh yeah.
we are not going to prosecute, and we're
Right.
not going to prosecute because there's insufficient evidence to support a finding of guilt, or even further the investigation to any further degree.
Yeah.
That's all he would have to say. But he
Yeah.
adds all kinds of embellishment to it, and to make himself look better in the eyes of his potential critics.
Well, because when you're sent to be the the hound dog, right? You're sent to be the hound dog and come back with Biden's carcass, and then we could prosecute his ass. If that's your mission, and you come back and say, "I'm sorry," nothing, you
Well,
got to
when
give him something.
he starts out as a hound dog, but if he finds anything, he's supposed to be a pit bull.
Yeah, well, I'm just sure that when he had a draft of the report, some more political animals came in and said, "You're not going to put out that short thing, are you? You got to do something more. You got to interview Biden. You got to get him so that this
Yeah,
can
yeah.
be. I mean, you want to be Comey. You want to be James Comey too, and this is
Yeah, well,
too.
that's that comparison has been made amply.
Yeah, well, I
Everybody's
know,
saying the
but
same thing. The
it
problem is
it's the
this isn't
model.
close enough to the election. Comey really screwed Mrs. Clinton because he did that within 10 days
All right. So what happens is
of the
her does
election.
her does this with more time, so
Yeah,
that he can be seen as, well, I'm just doing my job. I'm just helping them a
right,
little bit,
right.
and there's enough time so they can like recover. But this is an issue, and not every or not just a few people are thinking about this age thing. So let me just add a little gasoline to this
Okay,
idea.
okay,
I think that's what Robert Hur was doing.
okay. Now let me ask you this question:
Yeah.
how effective is the utilization of his statements of subjective perspective on Biden, his age, and his infirmity? right? His alleged infirmity.
Mm.
Okay, how effective can the right be in using that against Mr. Biden?
Well, I mean, pretty effective. I mean, I think
Yep.
all you have to do is mention it. I mean, you don't have to prove it because the proof is there. The proof is there that Joe Biden has ample, memory resources, that he's able to do the job. I mean, the thing is, the Republicans are the ones who use meritocracy, right, as a qualifier, right, to beat affirmative action, to beat down people of color. Hey, we're a meritocracy. The best
and
people. We
and
want the
don't
best.
forget women and
Oh,
LGBTQ
yeah,
people.
women, LGBTQ. But now you got to include elderly,
Yep.
older people, because here is Joe Biden. What has he done? Soft landing on a recession, inflation getting better, economy getting better. The United States so much better than it was when he took over. He's better off than we are as a country, better off than we were 4 years ago. The things
Yeah,
in
and he
Afghanistan.
protected people during the COVID period. He protected people then. They still have more available medical assistance than
Right,
they had before. More people
right,
have signed up for it, right? For
right.
Obamacare, and he's paid off on all of the promises except one, and that's immigration reform.
Yeah, well, and that's because it takes two to tango, and you need the help of the Republicans, and and because they don't control the Democrats don't control the House,
Well,
and
the Democrats came forward with a really strong, I would say, progressive engineered
mm,
policy that was easy for the Republicans to turn down.
yeah,
They led with DACA and a path to citizenship, and that was one of many things in that platform.
yeah,
But simply saying DACA and path to citizenship is enough for the right to say no. They don't
right,
want people getting citizenship. They don't want a path, and I don't understand why the Democrats do not say, well, it was good enough for Mr. Reagan,
right.
okay, in
Well,
1985, 86.
because
Uh,
the Republicans are not they're not the Republican Party of Reagan anymore.
well,
Clearly, I
but
mean,
they love to claim Reagan.
yeah, but it's not, because the Republican Party of Reagan would be moderate Democrats today, unfortunately, and the it's really the party of Trump, ruled by a small well, not a small, a sizable minority within the Republicans, but a vocal and very active minority, 30%.
Agreed, agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, but they have the effect of swinging the rest of the Republican Party,
Oh yes, yes, they
because
do.
the
Because,
majority of the Republican Party are going to vote Republican just because they identify with being Republican.
right.
Remember, they've really worked that
Yeah.
aspect
And,
of their political behavior, the psychology of the political behavior, really well. Okay,
yeah.
because for what, more than a decade and a half, for at least 30 years, they
Mhm.
have used a term that came out of the social sciences, identity politics, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They've used that effectively to mean politics of color, to
Yeah.
mean black politics, right? When people of color do politics, it's all based on race.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I'll tell you.
when white people do politics, it's based on nationalism and patriotism.
Yeah.
So white people politics is legit, while people of color's politics is all just about race.
Yeah, you hit on it. The whole idea of identity politics. Oh, playing the race card, playing identity. I mean, because as soon as you have people who use those phrases, you're not going to get into a legitimate debate. No one
You-
really wants to talk
yeah,
about.
one of my tests is, how do you pronounce the country that Baghdad is located in? And
Oh
if
yeah,
they say Iran, you already know where it's going to go.
yeah, or Iraq. Yeah,
Yep, yep.
yeah.
You
You
already
know
know
that
where it's going to go.
because they've read
They ought
the.
to say Israel as
Yeah,
well. I mean, they might
right.
as well do that, huh?
Right, because they've read the MAGA playbook. They read, where I realize that things have gone wrong is where people say the Democrat Party.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, that's the other one. The
They don't want to
Democrat.
say Democrat. They don't want to add the tick. They don't want to put that last syllable on there.
Yeah, because then it's like, oh, the Democrat. Well, we are a democratic country. No, the Democrat Party. They're
Yeah.
the enemy. So that always gets me. So,
Yeah.
so we have Robert Hur. He's done his damage, and I guess now he can. I guess now. Look, Asian Americans are playing a role in the on at least a. I don't want to call it the demise of Biden because it's not done yet, but they've certainly contributed to trying to stop Biden.
Yeah.
What Robert Hur did. Now,
Yep.
MJ Lee, Korean American journalist, CNN, asked the question at the press conference last night where Biden came out, and she asked him the question about, hey, people want to know about, you know, you say watch me, and they're watching you, and they're concerned, and Biden laid into her. I think she's doing a good job as a reporter. It's one thing to come at him as a reporter. Actually, you could say that she kind of set up Biden so that Biden can come on strong and say, I can do the job. I'm the best guy to do the job. That exchange was actually a positive thing. I'm glad an Asian American reporter was doing it. I mean, she's conscientious, and she's ethical, and she's a good reporter. But Robert Hur, special prosecutor, Asian American, he went the political route, and he's trying to sink Biden, and that's plain as day. So
Yep. No,
I
I don't. Yeah. It's see when people see a lot of the Asian Americans on the conservative side, right? I mean, and her is probably more of a traditional conservative than a Trumper. Okay.
yeah,
Um, they tend to, combine a commitment to nationalism and what they perceive as patriotism. They tend to combine those things, right, with opportunism, and that's what confuses me because uh, if someone with a good foundation, in political science and or the law, right, legal studies of some sort or another, look at with an objective scan, right, and an objective analysis at the actual history of the Trump administration and now all of these prosecutions in the works against Mr. Trump himself. Okay, how you can see siding with him and presenting yourself as being in league with him as a great bet, right? This is not like a comparison between the Chiefs and the Niners,
yeah,
right? This is not, they're not close.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
there's an overwhelming amount of evidence against Mr. Trump, and he's going to be found guilty on some of these things, if not all of them, at least some of them. And then the question is going to be, what's the punishment going to be? Is he actually going to have to do prison time? Now, within the next few days, there's a possibility that the decision in New York is, New York City particularly, is going to be, you got to pay all of this money,
Oh
and
yeah,
not only that, you can't do business anymore. You can't do business in Manhattan. You can't do business not only in New York City. You can't do business in the state of New York. Okay,
yeah,
and that will wipe him out. That will wipe out his brand entirely, because the whole foundation of his brand that brought him not only his TV show but brought him to the presidency will be dashed. I mean, it will be absolutely obliterated, and he
mm.
will be essentially a person, a New Yorker in exile, in the ever narrowing space known as the state of Florida.
Well,
with
I
with
just
shoreline property, right?
the, the thing about Trump is that for every time he thinks he loses, well, wait, there's another case, and he might
Yeah,
win that. Or if he wins, like it appears as if he won the Supreme Court uh, thing on the 14th Amendment, because the way the questions were
yeah.
asked.
Oh, we got to get back to that. I got a couple of comments, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up again.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it
I
it
mean,
looks like a win. It looks like a win because he stays on the ballot.
yeah.
Okay, but it's really not, because now the people who are feel like Mrs. Anderson, who
Mhm.
was the lead plaintiff, right, of the six Republicans, lifetime Republicans, right?
Right.
That those are traditional Republicans, literally, right? I mean, she's 91, so if
Yeah.
there's anyone that can be seen as a Nixonian and a Reaganian, if that's a word, a Ronald Reagan Republican, she's
Yeah.
definitely an example of that. Okay,
Right. Right.
and so there's six of those people that were co-plaintiffs, and you got to believe that there are going to be lots more people that feel exactly the same way in her
Oh
home
yeah.
state.
If people, especially if Trump goes forward and gets convicted,
Yeah.
that usually is the question that usually swings over the people who were pro-Trump, but now after a conviction, they've gotten religion and say, "Hey, we can't vote for Trump," and that
Well,
usually,
and hopefully, because they understand, unlike the devoted Trumpers, that the reason he's being accused and prosecuted at all is because of the actions of grand juries and juries. You know,
the people.
yeah, it's the people themselves. It's not about avatars. I mean, these are really people who, at best, are like you and I, and at worst are only minimally biased, and so that they're willing to be objective and judge the circumstances based on the law and the facts.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. In my own classes, I tell students, there have been swings to the right and the left, even in San Francisco, but more generally in the state of California and on the West Coast. Even though we're labeled as a liberal state and all the rest of that stuff, there are places in San Francisco, I mean, in California, that swing definitely to the right. And but what I've seen among all of these different places is people take jury duty seriously.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey.
you got two groups of people. You got people who don't want to be on jury duty, and you
Mhm.
got people who understand the obligation and are willing to serve. That's it. And then among the latter that are willing to serve, they really take their job seriously.
Oh yeah, this is the thing that gets me about some of these cases that have come out in recent days, like the Crumley case in Michigan, and the jury
Yeah.
foreman came out and talked. You know, the power of the jury. Jurors usually like to be anonymous. It's the
Yeah.
judges who like to pump up their chests and that kind of thing, but the jury, has more power than the judge.
Yes.
They deliver the verdict. The people deliver the verdict. It's not the judge. It's judge and jury, but the jury is the last word. And I think people they lose touch of that. So when I saw the foreman of that Crumley trial, the mother who was convicted of
Convicted, yeah, because of her son's committing a mass murder.
the involuntary manslaughter, when she came forward, I said, God, the juror. People forget juries are so damn important. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so Dan, so
Can we
uh,
go back? Can we go back to the earlier thing,
yeah, let's go
your
back
first
to
discussion, just really briefly?
sure. No. Let's go back to the idea of the SCOTUS
Yeah,
case, and
you said that nobody mentioned insurrection, and actually, Brown Jackson, Justice Brown Jackson,
yeah,
did ask a question on insurrection.
right.
And
I'm sorry, I meant to say it was not a dominant part of the conversation
that's right.
in
And it
terms
should
of
have
like
been. It should
what
have
happened.
been.
It should have been.
More than one justice should have asked questions on that issue. It's a difficult one. I went back to see whether or not, among the more than now 900 convictions, right?
Mhm,
Some of which January 6th convictions, some of which were also convicted of sedition, and
mhm,
those were usually the leaders of groups like the Oath Keepers, etc. Right?
right.
That none of them had been charged with insurrection. So yeah, and the language of their convictions did not include the words insurrection. So to me, that's very problematic. I think that if you want to satisfy the general public's interest in seeing to it that justice is carried out, a case having to do with the definition of the attack on January 6th as an insurrection has to be decided.
Yes, and I think that that was one of the things that the Colorado Secretary of State, I saw her in an interview say that, yeah, this was an opportunity for the Supreme Court to decide how
Yes,
we define insurrection.
that's right.
Because they're in the Constitution, let's define it and get it out, because we don't need to wait for another insurrection to take place before we have to redefine or
Yeah,
define
yeah.
what it is that we're fighting.
And that indeed is the point. Because you got the right saying, oh, yeah, all those people have been convicted, man, and that are serving time, man, they're hostages.
Yeah,
They're
right,
hostages. We got to
right.
let them go. So, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, as I said, the Trump attorney yesterday, Mitchell, said, "Look, insurrection. No, it was a violent riot. It was whatever you
Yes.
don't call it
Did they
insurrection."
want to overthrow government? Yes. Did they want? He went down the checklist, man.
Yeah,
And I said, wait a minute. Let me look up the definition of insurrection.
yeah, yeah. But he said, "Look, we hate what happened. It was a violent riot.
It may
Those
be
are his
unjust.
words.
It may be immoral.
Yeah, it was a violent
But
riot.
it's not illegal.
It
It's not
wasn't
an insurrection. It was
insurrection
a
because
riot.
yeah. Hey, look, insurrection, that's four syllables, and Americans don't like to use four syllables. Yeah,
Well,
insurrection.
yeah, but
But
I saw an
meanwhile,
article. I didn't finish the article, man, but there's
yeah,
an article somewhere that where Trump calls the January 6th an insurrection. He actually uses the term
yeah,
insurrection in the
yeah, well,
description of the event.
well, this is the thing. We throw it around, but who knows insurrection like better than Filipinos? We
Yeah,
are the original
yeah, but
insurrectionists.
but Trump thinks it's about ED. He just take Viagra.
Yeah,
Cialis.
no,
If
but
that doesn't
Dan,
work out, do Cialis. That's the problem with an insurrection.
hey, Dan, but in terms of the term, Filipinos were the first insurrectionists, right?
Well, we were officially called insurrectos. Yes. And
Insurrectos.
insurrectos, because it started with the Spanish. So if you want to get historical and technical,
Mm,
it started with the Spanish, and there were 200 rebellions, man,
yeah,
by Filipinos,
I
mostly
guess.
from Central Luzon, right? The area that our dads are from,
Yeah, against the Spanish,
against Spain. That's right.
but
And
the
then
big insurrectos were the ones
the
who fought in the United
revolutionaries
States.
against the U.S. They carry it was a continuation of their revolution against Spain. So yeah.
Right, 1899 to 1902. So we know
Oh
that.
yeah, and
Yeah,
that was a fake date, right? That was
right,
a
right,
fake date, July
yeah,
4th, 1902. No
yeah,
coincidence there.
yeah. Well,
It's over. We've defeated them, and we get to celebrate the end of that insurrection on the 4th of freaking July.
yeah. Well, just like George Bush, right? George Bush,
That's
we've
some
won.
corny stuff. Oh, dude, that's so damn corny.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Well, yeah, it's just like Friendship Day. Friendship Day for Filipinos, July 4th. Every July
oh
4th
no.
is Friendship Day.
Oh, that's what I said about it. Remember 1898 to 1998, and everybody was commemorating. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, the special relationship between the United States and the Philippines. They were commemorating 1998, and I said, "Gee, I can't wait till next year."
yeah,
And people said, "Why?" And I said, "How do you commemorate and celebrate the slaughter of 100,000 people?" You know, I
yeah. Well,
want to know.
this is the special relationship that people don't know, and we, when you mention insurrection, that it hits the Filipinos right where it matters because
Well,
we
it
were the
should.
original. We were
Yeah,
the
let's
original.
be real, man. I mean, they just reelected the son of, right? And
Oh
so,
yeah,
I mean, not reelected, they elected the son of.
really, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so what
But
does that tell you, right?
that means that we're no democracy is flawed.
We got, well, it means that we may be conscious of the revolution, but we
Mhm.
don't really know what it meant,
Yeah,
right?
that's
We just
true.
we
Yeah,
just understand for some reason the Filipino leadership decided that they were going to go counter to the United States as the United States was accumulating its power as an imperial power, right?
Yeah. Well, we don't know, but like I said in my column yesterday, that we know the difference between the good insurrectos and the bad ones. The
Okay.
good insurrectos fought the United States. The bad insurrectos wanted to take down the United States in Washington on January 6, 2021. Those are the bad ones.
I never thought of the guys that compromised their revolutionary philosophy and actions, right?
As the
As
good ones.
the good insurrectos.
Well, you know,
Those are the guys that went to Hong Kong and said, "Where's my share of the 400,000 pesos that we
all
additional
right.
pay that we're supposed to get for
It
quitting
was a
the revolution?"
splinter group. It was a splinter group. Right? There were some good insurrectos there. There were
Yeah,
the bad ones there too.
50% is a hell of a big splinter, dude. I mean, that's a that's a 2x4. That ain't
Okay,
a
but look,
splinter.
Aguinaldo is considered kind of like the neutered saint.
Oh,
He's
ouch!
he's
Ow!
sort of good and bad.
Ow, man!
But then there's the Bonifacio
There's
types,
a big
right?
difference. There's a big difference between no nuts and numb nuts. Okay, I
I
mean,
know, but Bonifacio, he's kind of the guy that people look up to, right?
some people,
Some
some
people.
people, some people. It's an ongoing dispute. I don't know if the current generation, which I mean people younger than us,
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
don't I
Yeah.
don't know if the current generations appreciate that distinction, but definitely in our generation there's still people who argue over that,
Yeah, well,
like
I'm sure. But the thing is, Aguinaldo, like I said, seen as hero and villain because he never really. What did he do? I mean, people look at the Philippine American War and the
you
first.
know while some of my generation were doing the pro civil rights and anti Vietnam War stuff, and at the same time we're trying to put together the material for a history class on Philippines and Filipino Americans, right?
Mm,
At the beginning of ethnic studies, and then we discovered, you know what, Aguinaldo's still alive.
yeah,
Damn, we said, holy what? you
yeah.
know yeah, so yeah, he was still alive, man. and
Well,
and, and people actually, you said, he's treated like a saint right up until he died. But then as soon as he died, all kind of radio and TV shows came out,
yeah,
besmirching his history and saying, no, this is really what happened. Okay.
yeah. Well,
he,
that's the
he was
thing.
a
I
Pontius
mean,
Pilate. He washed his hands and let fellow Filipinos line up in a firing squad and shoot, Bonifacio, right? And they let the Spaniards shoot, of course, Rizal.
yeah. So that's the thing. That's why Aguinaldo. But whose name gets in the history books in U.S. history books?
Sure, sure. Yeah, that's right.
Aguinaldo, not Rizal, not Bonifacio,
Well, he was
and
the guy that was approached, right, by the great admiral,
Dewey.
and let's make a deal,
Yeah,
and I don't know that people in the Bay Area appreciate that well enough, but I don't know if they still call it the Dewey Highway, right? But
Dewey.
actually, one of the freeways in the Bay
Yeah,
Area is the Dewey Freeway.
I know that. Yeah, Dewey is he's sort of lost a little luster. Anyway, let's get back to Robert Hur though, because he brought up something that is
I
real.
wonder what his pronouns look like. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, but the whole ageism thing.
okay,
Ageism is now and I in my column in the Aldif blog, I talk about, my dad would have been 119 on February 8th. And, the funny thing is, as I point out, my father actually died on Trump's birthday.
yeah,
On
oh
Trump's-
man,
And so I was wondering if yesterday on my dad's birthday, if Donald Trump's political life would die at the Supreme Court hearing on my dad's birthday, because the Supreme Court could say, "Hey, you're off the ballot," and that would have an impact on Trump's political life. But
yeah.
no, Trump was saved by the SCOTUS, and then also saved by Robert Hur, who also on my dad's birthday came out and said what he said about Biden. So let's talk about ageism for a second here. Uh, I'm surprised at her because usually Asian Americans revere older people,
Yeah.
especially, and there was like none of that in Robert. He was very modern Asian American. You're old, get out of here. I mean, it just struck me as so damn ageist.
Yeah.
And
Filipinos would say that she's too Americanized. He's too Americanized already.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how is this? I have to admit that when I was younger and fighting the stings, the slings and arrows of
Of
race
oppression.
discrimination,
Mhm.
I would say one day we're all going to come together because we're all going to get old, and that ageism we would battle ageism together. And now here I am older, and ageism is roaring.
Oh
It
yeah.
it is real. It
Yeah.
is,
I
it's
think I think the anti uh, Social Security
yeah,
attitude and all
yeah,
that. I think that's part of the ageist. It's all It starts out with individualism, and then it starts out with interest group, and then it spreads out to large scale interest group. And
yeah.
right now you've got youth versus the old, and it's problematic.
I mean, this is a generation gap that is more toxic than the normal generation gap.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know, martini or marijuana.
Yeah.
You know that's a generation gap. Uh, you know, Tinder or going up to someone and say, "Hey, can I have a phone number?" That's a generation gap.
That mezcal or mendocino.
But yeah, I mean, but now this is the real dangerous generation gap,
Yeah.
and it seems like people say, "Oh,
In my
push them
classes,
over, push those old people into it."
to 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 uh, to affirm your perspective,
Mhm.
in my classes for decades, I said, you guys think that the competition, when you get out of here and you're looking for a job, and then you get a job and you want to move up, okay, the ladder, you think the competition is people of your own age group. And I said, what's happening is um, people of my age group have to hang in there longer because it costs more to live, and so we stretch our retirement time out. And my dad was forced out of his state job at 65, and then that was struck down, right? Sometime in the 70s because of ageism, and they allowed people to stay on. But I said the other reason that they struck it down was not just ageism as discrimination, it was because even though the senior population was cheaper, I'm sorry, was more expensive, right?
Mhm.
They wanted to keep them on for the work because if they retired, they'd be getting money for free.
Yeah,
you know, because
yeah. Let's pay. We're going to pay them
yeah,
anyway. Let's get some work out of
yeah, yeah, we're going to pay them, so they might as well be doing some damn work.
it.
And I
Yeah,
said, so unfortunately for you, and this is what I told my students, unfortunately for you, your competition is two generations up, you know,
yeah, yeah.
and so that's who you're going to have to live with until they finally decide they're going to retire. And so they would ask me, when are you going to retire, you old bugger?
Well, but you're right though, Dan. Social Security is like welfare for old people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And some people would say that, but as that came out of my mouth, I realized, wait a minute, we pay into Social Security. That's not welfare.
Yeah,
We
that's
pay
right.
into it.
That's right. It isn't, and we pay. Yeah, we pay into it, but then the right has always been calling it. And what's the word they call them? They say to make it
Entitlement,
negative. Yes, entitlements. They're
entitlements. Oh,
entitlements. I said, yeah, we're entitled because we paid into the damn thing.
yeah,
I tell students, I said, you know what? I started paying into that damn thing when I was 16.
yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
my wife started paying into it when she was 15 because she got a federal after school work job.
Me too. I started paying that NYC.
Well, that was summer youth program.
No, well, there was some during
After
the
school,
non-summer.
the
Yeah.
4-4 plan.
Oh, not
Did
the
you get the
4-4,
4-4?
but the NYC. You're right. It started as a summer program, and
That's
then
right.
and then it was a like all year program.
Yeah,
But
there
yeah,
were two. There were two programs, right? They were both the same funding. They came out of the Fed funding,
yeah,
but it was
neighborhood youth corps, neighborhood youth
that's
corps.
right. Who it was about who administered it. It was if the EOC administered it, it was straight up Fed money, and it was called Summer Youth Program (SYP).
Mm,
If it was city administered, right, it
was it?
was NYC, the
Ah,
Neighborhood Youth
SEPA.
Corps.
That's why they
Yeah,
had SEPA jobs.
yeah. I had the Summer Youth Program, the SYP.
Ah, SYP. Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
I had
But I got that when I was in college, and I, as a supervisor, I had to run around and doing so that was my first job that had anything to do with the mayor's office. But yeah, it was cool. It was
yeah.
cool.
Well, yeah. See well, anyway, I so
Well, we learned a lot. You can tell we got the political bug by having
yeah.
those jobs because we started understanding, how all that stuff works. Where's the money come from? Who administers it? What do I have to do? For as a worker or a
Mhm.
supervisor in those instances. Who do I report to? All of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
actually even given a city car with the municipal,
Wow.
yeah,
I
the
just wanted.
municipal seal on the door of the car. It
Could have
was
given
a
me a.
Buick Skylark, brand new. But
Wow, they
anyway,
could have given me a skateboard or something. So,
yeah,
all
the
right.
way that I would win hearts and minds, man, was give kids rides.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I'd say, hey,
So,
come on in. Yeah, I'll take them. Hey, supervisor, I'm gonna take them out for a ride. Maybe get some burgers or something.
all right. Now, someone who was envious about my NYC job because he was retired was my father, and I mentioned him earlier from my column. I call him Citizen Willie, but
Yeah,
for the longest time he was not a citizen. And when he got here in 1928, he was an American national, colonized Filipino. They had no rights. They couldn't vote. So tell me, now this is not clear.
they had
My,
some rights. They had some rights.
but
They
what's
could
not
get like
clear,
a fishing license.
yeah, but
They,
was
they
not,
could get a driver's license.
but what's not clear is when my father got his citizenship. Because once he got it, oh, he revered that thing.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
he did not go to the army. But what was the law? Was it 1938 or was it after the war for the World War II that they allowed
Allowed
Filipino?
naturalization.
Yeah,
46 was
it
after
was
the war.
46.
Yeah.
And what was the reason they allowed Filipinos who had been here for years to apply for naturalization?
Part of it was the veterans thing, right?
Yeah.
Part of it because there were a lot of Filipino veterans, and I'm most familiar with the army, with the U.S. Army ones, because that was my father and most of his cousins of the same age group, right?
Mm,
Um, but we were also really aware of the long term relationship between Filipinos and the U.S. Navy, with
right.
Filipinos being recruited directly into the Navy beginning in like 1906,
Mm,
right, in the Philippines. They were
right.
recruited in. They didn't have to come here or go anywhere. There was a naval base in the Philippines, and they could sign up at Sangley Point. You know,
Right. All right. So, but my father wasn't in the military. What was what was the provision under which people who weren't in the military but they were just here, they're Filipino Americans, had been there in the 20s and 30s and the 40s, and now they were given the right to.
there was a group of people who had who said, okay, fine. So you're letting veterans, Filipinos who had signed up, actually took citizenship before they even shipped out. There was a big ceremony, right, at one of the camps at Camp Beale, which is now like Beale Air Force Base, right?
Mm,
And so a lot of people took their oath back then, their citizenship back then. But after the war, everybody was a lot of people were taking their citizenship. My father actually initially refused because he
mhm.
was pissed off about the racism.
Yeah, yeah.
And but when he got to the end of the mustering line, right, when you're getting your final honorable discharge and all the rest of that, the last officer, and whose name he could not recall, but he was another colonel, who said, you got to rethink that, man. He goes, are you getting married? Do you have a plan? Are you going to bring family here? I said, if you're going to do that, you're way better off, becoming a citizen. And a lot of these officers, these liberal guys, would refer to the Filipinos not as boy but as son, and
Yeah.
they had this paternal attitude. And in fact, one of the nicknames that people in the first Filipino regiment had for Colonel Offley was Tatay. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, which means
Well,
dad.
I could see that. I can see that, and I just remember that my dad's citizenship was so valuable. I mean, wasn't around then when he got it, but when I grew up, of course he had it. My mom did. My mom stayed a green card alien for the longest time until one of Reagan's cutbacks made her political and said, "I got to sign up now," and she naturalized
Oh, that's cool.
way late in the
That's
'80s.
cool. Well, it's
But my
great that she was motivated by something political that she understood. I mean,
oh, she
that's what
understood.
it's
She
all
understood.
about.
Yeah,
That's what
she
it's all about.
understood.
You know,
And
you
my
know what
father.
happened was a lot of the veterans formed a pro naturalization group, and they argued with the help of a couple of liberal Congress people, and I'm missing the gentleman's name, but it was an Italian from New York State, from upstate New York,
Right.
and they fought for naturalization for all Filipinos, and that group included Alex Fabros Jr.'s father, Alex Fabros Sr., who was one of the leaders of that group, and they went to D.C. and they got support from members of Congress,
Yeah.
which was kind of interesting because they were Democrats, and the Democrats in the South were horribly racist, right? And
Yeah.
so they were the element that now is converted to the post Civil Rights Act Republican Party, right? So anyway, that
Yeah.
group
Yeah.
succeeded in getting a bill passed for all Filipinos to be eligible for naturalization. So that's how
Around
that happened.
1946, right?
Yeah, it
19,
started in 46. I can't remember if they succeeded in 47. I think it was
yeah.
47. I always get confused around that period because the next year was the UN, right, here in
Yeah.
San Francisco,
Right.
which
Well,
is easier
I
for
just
me to remember because that's my birthday. Yeah.
oh well, yeah. All these mnemonic devices in
Yeah.
history. Yeah.
Whatever helps, man.
Yeah.
Whatever helps.
I just know that when my dad, his citizenship was so important because with citizenship
You
you're able
know,
to
he
vote.
wasn't alone.
Yeah. He
That
was able to
they
vote.
were very zealous for that.
Yeah.
You know.
And he impressed that on me that hey, you're a citizen. Hey, you got to vote. It's important.
Yeah.
And so I call him Citizen Willie because he was once I was born a citizen, and when the appellate court in their ruling against Trump's immunity claim said President Trump is now
He's
just
just an
citizen.
ordinary guy.
You know, my
You notice
dad.
they didn't say he's an ordinary Joe because that would be
Yeah,
too confusing. I
no,
mean,
but if
he was
you're
a citizen.
Citizen
He was
Trump.
a citizen. Yeah,
Yeah, my dad
yeah,
would say, "Oh, you're a citizen,
yeah,
citizen.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. You
Well,
got more. You, you
when,
Donald Trump have more rights than you need. You're a
well, when
citizen.
you did the Citizen Willie thing, I was thinking, oh no, is he going to go Citizen Kane? I mean, what's happening here? I mean,
No, 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 Citizen
yeah.
Willie,
I
Citizen
was
Willie.
worried. I was worried.
My dad. So his birth date is. We still have to solve this ageism thing. What's going to solve the ageism thing? Anything?
uh, I don't know. I don't think anything. What's going to solve the racism thing?
Oh well, I don't
What's going to solve? Yeah, the
know. Look,
sexism and sexuality thing. What's it?
I was so naive 30 years ago, and I thought, oh well, we all get old. So and we're not all black or brown or Asian. We're not all we're not all LGBTQ, straight, cis, whatever. So maybe we're all have a chronological thing. So maybe this age isn't. We'll find that common ground in the fact that we all get older, and that'll be our entree to humanity. And instead, it's like, oh no, no, it's another way of othering that I didn't anticipate would be so strong. So
Yeah, it's economics, man.
Yeah.
It's economics and social position, and so uh, when people look at it, the right has been very successful in all these things. You know, the Medicare and Social Security are entitlements. They are a huge portion of the budget. That's correct. That is absolutely correct. And so they say, you know, with this aging population, and we're living longer, so we're even more of a problem
Oh, yeah.
as a drain on the budget. It's problematic, right? But the reality is, with Medicare and Social Security, we're not only a large population of former workers, right, are not only living longer, they're living better. And so we're less of a charge on the system than people who are not living as well. And so that's also another problem, right? That we've got this huge, uh, it's not an epidemic, but this huge circumstance of homelessness
Yeah.
that also ends up being a charge against budgets and local funding.
Well, some people are doing well, some people aren't. The homeless rates, I mean, you look at all the stats, and there's usually a rise among older Americans. It's really dismaying because, some people are going to look at these costs and they're going to say, oh, well, they're not going to be, they're not going to be as charitable. They're going to come with their budget acts. And unless people speak out, I mean, this is why I said, well, where are the Gray Panthers when we need them? Where the people?
Unfortunately, that generation has passed away. I mean, they're really, there were very few now.
Well, we need new Gray Panthers. I mean, I'm saying that one thing that got
Yeah,
me
but you
is,
keep coloring your hair, dude.
hey,
I
no,
mean,
no, no, my driver's license says eyes brown, hair dyed, and so I'm deceased. People think I'm deceased. No, no, I do it because you asked that same question of Dolly Parton. I mean,
yeah,
it's just it's a very shallow thing.
yeah.
But
She shouldn't have worn hot pants. She shouldn't have
yeah,
done that. That was a bridge too far for me.
I'm saying people who are older just need to speak out, and they need to speak out because they won't come after the entitlements if people speak out and will come back at them. They always come at the people who are vulnerable and say nothing. They always
Right,
come
right,
come at the people who have no advocates. They'll go after animals, right? They'll go after animals because who speaks for the animals?
right.
You They'll go after the voiceless. So you have to speak out. So I don't know. I guess we haven't solved ageism, but we're
Well,
working on it.
we can't, we can't solve it because the people. It's like the Trumpism thing. It's what people want to believe, and
Yeah.
and it makes them feel. Um, it makes them feel like they have the potential for power, even if they don't have actual power that they can exercise.
Hmm.
They feel that they have the potential for power. It's like having a lot of guns at home, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you only got two hands, and so having a whole lot of guns, I guess you could spread them around the house or so that you have access to something, if the time comes. But that's what people's attitude is. It's the potential
Yeah.
for so-called alleged defense. That's the position they're taking. But it's not just the potential for defense; it's the potential to take a life is what it's all about, and that's what's scary. The same people who have a natural tendency towards aggression
Hmm.
are the same people who got a lot of guns.
Yeah.
You know, and in my past most recent class,
Hmm.
gun control and gun safety was not mentioned as the top three issues.
Yeah.
The
Well,
economy, I'll tell you, the general media and especially the right media has done a great job of controlling what people's are thinking are the most immediate problems in American society today. It's, they weren't thinking international or global.
they weren't thinking immigration, really.
That's right.
I mean, It
Yeah.
wasn't a priority, and then the Republicans made the southern border, and they made it. But uh, I don't know how they're going to solve this. You've got the right so immoral that they could fix it, but they would rather have it as an election issue.
Well, because Mr. Trump said so.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's the ugliest part of it all.
That's
That's the
why
ugliest part of it all.
yeah, that's why Trump maintains that he has immunity from crimes. We need immunity from Trump. How
Yeah.
do we get it? And the only way you get that is my father would say, the citizen voter. You got to vote.
Vote him out. Yeah, that's right.
vote.
But
You got
but see, but see, he has this whole a population of enablers,
yeah.
and that's really where the source of the problem is.
Well, I want to see. Look, yesterday at that press conference where Joe Biden went out there. Do you think that was a good move that Joe Biden? I kind of like the fact that he went out there, but a lot of people are saying no, that was bad. He should have been kind of, I don't know, should he have been more meditative?
I thought he was correct in being angry. I
Yeah,
think he needs to be angry. And
yeah,
but I think they also need to address the ageism thing directly. I think they need to hit it right on the head and say, look, you keep complaining about this guy, and
yeah,
he doesn't. No question, he doesn't move as well as he used to. Right?
yeah,
He walks with a shorter stride, and he
yeah,
clearly favors one leg over the other, and so he shows physical decline. Okay,
yeah.
but is that the equivalent of mental or intellectual decline? And then they look at him confusing
Mexico,
international leaders, right? Yeah,
yeah,
a couple. That's his latest gaffe, uh,
Mexico,
and
Egypt.
that's yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
so
the thing about that, it's such a minor thing, and you're surrounded by all these aides that if there was something that was wrong, someone would say, hey, you got that wrong. Okay, good. No harm, no foul. But it's a embarrassing thing. It's a small thing, and it's something that catches people's attention, and they remember. Oh, he mixed. But Trump does the same thing. He messes up.
he's actually worse.
He's worse, yeah, and because he's stupider. Trump is not very intelligent. He is the least qualified to be president, and for some reason, I guess it's white privilege. They give him a pass.
Well,
And
I had a conversation with you maybe three weeks back, and I said Trump is the avatar for those folks. I mean that
yeah,
they really identify with him.
yeah,
I've always been meaning to talk to my psychologist friends about that perspective that he's their avatar,
yeah,
um, because they identify with him so strongly. They're willing to deny even statements that he makes himself
yeah.
about what he just did.
I mean,
I said, were you paying attention when he said that?
yeah, I mean, Trump is scarier than Biden. I mean, I would rather have Joe Biden in charge of our country under anything, under any kind of stressful situation. I'd rather have Biden instead of Trump because Trump is number one, not qualified, doesn't know. And you know what he's going to do because he understands he doesn't know. He's going to surround himself with all these right wingers who will prop up his dictatorship because that's what he wants. And that's what a dictator does. But I was looking up 2018 or 2017, rather. I think it was. See, now there's an example of onset, early onset
early
memory.
onset, yeah,
Uh, but I was looking in YouTube, Trump in Helsinki with Putin.
yeah.
That was the worst. The worst.
But it
Unqualified.
went like water off a duck's back, man. The
Yeah,
dude, I mean, remember they used to call when the Iran Contra thing was raging, they called Mr. Reagan President Teflon,
yeah, yeah.
the Teflon man, and because there was nothing stuck to him, even
Yeah.
if it was really clear, and
I,
nothing stuck to the guy.
I mean, Helsinki,
That was
with
that
big,
was awful.
yeah, with Putin, and there was the low point. And and he wrote, and he was used by Putin, and I mention that again now because here's Putin using Tucker Carlson,
Yeah.
another big opportunistic dummy, because he's used for propaganda reasons now, for for Putin.
Look,
And,
Carlson ain't no dummy. Carlson is 10 times smarter than Trump. He know, and that's what makes him worse. Okay, because
oh yeah,
Trump, because the guy actually understands what the hell he's doing, and it's not just about. It is about power, but it's also about, just like Trump, a manipulation of what he understands about his audience.
yeah.
Okay, and that if people keep calling Trump a freaking genius, man, it just really hurts my feelings.
Yeah, he's not a genius. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
no,
you offend real geniuses by saying that.
and when I call him a psychopath, people get upset. They say, "No, no, no, he's a sociopath." Okay, okay, if they're at least willing to admit that, okay, what does a sociopath do? They don't really have any values of their own, but they understand the best sociopaths, right? They know how everybody else thinks, and so they know how they're supposed to posture under certain circumstances, right? You don't fart in the elevator, okay, especially when it's an express that's going
Yeah,
to go 20 floors, right?
yeah,
Without opening the doors. You
yeah,
don't do that, okay? So sociopaths understand that, right? So
yeah,
so they hold back, okay? They know that you're supposed to show respect for elders, and so they can be very respectful. They can act that all out, right? Okay, but then turn around and say, yeah, but we got to do something about these entitlements, especially Social Security and Medicare, okay? And then they call it socialism. That always works, right?
oh yeah, socialism. Oh, that's the big
Works
buzzword
every
that gets
time.
used. Yeah, it really does. Socialist medicine, socialist this.
Yeah, when I brought up in one instance, I said, have you ever seen the way that the Dutch and the Swedes and the Norwegians, the Danes, how they deal with old age? They have communities. They
Yeah.
have old age communities where there's care available 24. You can get that here in the United States. You can get that right here in the Bay Area, but you know how much it costs?
Oh yeah.
It's like $6,000-7,000 a month.
Oh
A
yeah.
month,
Yes.
right? My mother was shocked. She was thinking, I'm going to live really nice now because I'm going to, and my dad was still alive, and so she was shopping around, looking for. I taught her how to use the web. And she was shopping around, trying to find a reasonable 24/7 care place. And there was one nearby with access to the Rancho Solano recreational facilities. The golf course, the tennis courts, everything. Swimming club, the whole thing. And she was in shock.
Yeah.
She
And
said it was
7,000 is
six,
actually,
7,000 per person.
yeah.
Per person. So it'd be 14,000 a month for each of them. And I said, yeah, that'll go through your whole estate, including selling off your house, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, this is the thing. This is the sad thing about the way about healthcare, long-term care. It's getting to the point where, well, you thought that maybe by the time the boomers got old, that this problem would be taken care of, but now they're fading off, and it's like every man and woman for themselves. I mean, it's not unless we have a system where we begin to care for our elderly, and we don't. And you could see it by the reaction to older people through the ageism that we saw. I mean, the Feinstein thing was just the beginning.
yeah.
Feinstein, and now we're going to have other old, and you see other people like McConnell getting older and showing signs, and people freaking out. Um,
Well,
and look,
RBG, man, RBG. I was upset because RBG didn't retire when she
oh
should
yeah,
have.
yeah, RG,
And that cost us another position. I mean, it could have been a 5-4 court,
yeah.
with the four liberals
Well, there
if she
needs to
had
be,
retired earlier. But
need to think about term limits, or people reaching an age and mandatory. I mean, that's another discussion. But
Yeah, but
That's one way to
that's a
deal with
form of
ageism.
ageism in and of itself, right? You know.
Well, it is. And like you point out about your dad being forced to retire from a state job at 65 and then coming back, I mean, it's just, yeah, well, these are all the issues that we're leaving in the next generation because it's not going to be us deciding, it's going to be the next generation, unfortunately. So be kind to your kids.
Yeah.
I guess that's the lesson. Hey, look, I there are two things I want to talk about in the time remaining. One being the Super Bowl, because, we're both 49er fans. I'm wearing my red today because hopefully that'll help them if people watch this on replay. But this isn't a story
Well,
that
I'm wearing red too, but I'm not wearing it on the outside,
oh, I
unfortunately.
got it. I got it. I got it. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have to show it. That's all right.
Okay.
Uh, uh,
Well, I checked for holes. It
okay,
seemed,
that's good. That's good. Okay.
okay.
That's good. That's good. Hey, Shane Gillis, the comedian who I wrote about a few years back, 2019, coming back 5 years later. I mean, he said some racist things about Asian Americans, Chinese. He had some LGBTQ things he said. And people wrote about it. I mean, if you're a comedian, you can expect that, hey, court of public opinion, you'll get stuff coming at you, and then people who hire you can make a decision to hire you or not. Saturday Night Live had hired Shane Gillis, and they said nope. They went back on the contract. He got dumped. 5 years later, now they're bringing him back to host the show, and it's going to happen later in the month. And I just wondered what you thought about this, because to me it seems like there's a statute of limitations on political incorrectness, or there's a limit to the penance that you will serve. And 5 years seems to be enough. He comes back. We know it happened with Louis C.K. He said stuff. He comes back. And, it's happened with other people too, where comedians mostly, but other people who've done stuff that they get canceled for, they come back. So I asked Mr. Woke Professor, tell me what you think about Shane Gillis, and should he come back? And should Asians protest? Should Asians say, no, you can't come back? Now you're too soon, too soon.
Well, 5 years is a long time, but the time isn't as important to me as his attitude, right? I mean, he wasn't only anti-Asian; he was anti-Jew. I
Yeah.
think he was pretty anti-Semitic, but in the anti-Jewish sense, right? That
Anti-LGBTQ also, he was,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's done all that, and there
yeah.
have been other comedians that were like that. What was that guy named? His middle name was Diamond.
Oh, I don't remember him.
Dressed up with a leather motorcycle jacket and kind of an Elvis haircut. I can't remember his name, but
Uh,
anyway,
but
yeah,
I know
he.
there have been comedians in the past, like Michael Richards said some things, right? He was caught in a club saying some stuff, and he got kind of canceled. Hasn't really made a comeback. Louis C.K. certainly canceled, but he came back. He's come back. Plays Madison Square Garden. Tony Hinchcliffe canceled, but he's come back. So, what do you think? I mean, should Asian Americans say not too soon? Don't come back yet. Show me you're ready. Or I don't know. What do you, is there something appropriate? Or Saturday Night Live is certainly within their rights to hire him again.
Yeah, I don't know what other material he did, but I know what he was kicked off SNL for. I think he was getting ready to be a regular member, right? Regular
Yeah,
cast member,
yeah, yeah,
and so I don't know how they made those kind of decisions and stuff. I mean, there have been past cast members that I didn't think were that funny. They weren't that
yeah.
good. But
I bet knowing what you know, should he
should
come
he
back?
come back? Yeah, I'm judging him on the basis of the stuff that he said, that I know was publicized and that he said.
Mm,
And frankly, I didn't think it was that bad. Who did a lot of ethnic accent jokes
mm.
was the original. God, why am I forgetting his name? His best gig was in San Francisco because this was one of the few places that didn't throw him in jail all the time.
Who's this?
Back in the 50s.
Not Lenny Bruce.
Yes, Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce? How can you forget Lenny Bruce? He
Yeah,
did
no,
that.
I forgot his name.
Oh,
I don't forget his routine, but he used to do a lot of Jewish comedians did a lot of Jewish accent stuff and Jewish cultural stuff.
yeah,
And so because they were doing it about their own ethnic group, I guess it couldn't be considered prejudiced or racist.
yeah,
Okay? But some of the best stuff comes from a person of that ethnic group, of
yeah,
that racial group. I mean, black Def Jam humor and all that stuff. I mean, a
yeah.
lot of it is black centric, right? It's Afrocentric.
Well,
So,
it's one thing if you're saying it and you're,
yeah,
you
but
know,
then when you cross the line, it ain't cool, okay? And Shane's comments about Chinatown and about the accents
mm,
um, was not that bad, in my opinion. What was bad was he screwed up the relationship between a Japanese accent and a Chinese accent
oh, yeah,
because he said noodles right instead of noodles,
yeah, yeah,
and the Chinese don't do noodles.
yeah.
Japanese substitute the R for the L. Okay,
So it was
so
kind of ignorant, but
yeah, it's stupid and ignorant, and it shows that he doesn't really understand shit about either of the two groups. Um, if anything, the Chinese accent, they pronounce the L like a W.
yeah,
You
noodle,
know,
noodle, noodle.
noodle. Yeah, exactly. And so, he doesn't really know his stuff. So I don't care. How funny is the rest of his stuff? Is he that good?
Well,
I
he's
don't
fun.
know. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to go online and check it out.
he's funny now. He was funny then a little bit, but I think people are just offended. I'm trying to develop a sense of what I think because I do some comic things. I appear in these fringe festivals. I use accent jokes. I'm going to be at the Improv February 18th in Hollywood. Um, a short bit there, but and so I have a different view about whether or not there should be some kind of like free speech zone where for jokes and for comedians to do what they do. But I think you should be ready for the debate
Sure.
because I'm not for censorship, but I am always for debate. So maybe there there has been enough time because he hasn't done accent jokes. He's done funnier jokes and time has passed. So maybe we are at a stage where we
But
should
I'd
be.
be in trouble. Would we be in trouble if we did our southern racist jokes
I don't know.
with an accent? You know,
I don't know. I mean, talking like a hillbilly, talking
or
like a hillbilly.
you know what's wrong with the goddamn Chinese?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. If you say it's a joke, it's a joke. If they say, "Oh, they're racist against white people," that's what it's coming down to.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's true. Well,
you
but see,
know,
once
oh,
again,
they're
it's the false equivalency thing, right? It's okay for you to make fun of us, but it's not okay for us to make fun of you.
yeah.
So,
Well,
what can we do?
maybe we're just in a different age and era right now, where in the old days, even 5 years ago, we could say, Asian comedians aren't where they should be. So, the morning zoo type of Asian accent joke, everyone does it. It's been, it's so trite, but
Yes, right.
it still gets a laugh. It
Yeah.
still gets a racist laugh out of people, and so people go to it. And so I'm thinking that in the old days we can speak out and debate. Now we have Asian comedians. We have Asian comedians on Netflix. We have Ali Wong. We have Hassan Minaj. We got uh, Ronnie
And
Chung.
they do jokes about their own ethnic group. They do
Yeah,
jokes about their grandmas and their parents and their new immigrant relatives and stuff like that.
yeah,
and that some of the best comedians, Filipino comedians have done the same thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but we also do cross ethnic, inter ethnic jokes that involve accents. Rex Navarrete does some of the best freaking cross ethnic jokes in terms of the quality of his accents. He can do the South Asian, the Indian accent really well.
Mm,
He does different takes on not only Filipino accents but Korean accents, like Korean American versus Korean immigrant, that kind of stuff, and he does it really well. So sometimes he has to pause for a moment and he points at his head, which means I got to get it. I got to turn the right switch on, in my head to get this right. But
yeah,
he'll do the Vietnamese 7-Eleven, grocery store or grocery store owner and stuff like that, right?
yeah,
Where
yeah,
where can I find the mac and cheese? It's an old joke that he does.
yeah.
Uh, and the answer is look on the aisle where it says the sign is shit only white people eat. Yes, stuff like that, and that's an old one for him. I mean, we're going back 15 years for that.
Hey, look, I'm honored that he used my name in a joke of his.
Yeah, yeah, he
The
did.
LBC Packers.
Yeah, the Packers,
Packers. The Packers.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
he's worked that one over for about 30 years or so, man.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
LBC Packers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
Everybody has stolen a version of that too,
oh
and
yeah, yeah. Well, so tell me, what do you think though about? Uh,
letting him in, letting the white folks give him a break.
I
I think
don't
it
know.
comes
I
down
mean,
to how funny he is. If he can
yeah,
make me laugh, if I think what he's doing is humorous and funny, right? It's not. You're not always going for the falling down
yeah,
gut roll, right?
yeah,
You're also looking for humor.
yeah.
You're.
Homar, yes,
Yeah,
Homar. I
humor.
look. I'm not for censorship. I'm not for censorship. In fact, the more I do live performance on stage, I understand. I understand what his from his perspective. So I have some empathy. Um, I'm just still thinking about what I want to say publicly about this because it was announced this week and it's going to happen later on in the month, and I just want to get a sense of how I feel, and I wanted to ask you. All right, so enough of Shane Gillis. What about the Super Bowl? We'll end on the Super Bowl. What do you think, Dan? I want the Niners, of course, but
Yeah, so do I. I mean, we're dyed in the wool Niner fans, even with the bad times as well as the good times.
oh yeah, John
King,
Brody,
sure,
John
Kings
Brody,
are Kings are
he's
right,
on.
But yeah, I think we're even up, man. I mean, it's going to come down to how well our defense works.
Yeah,
I think that
yeah,
they're not going to let Purdy throw long ones unless it's absolutely necessary. And that comes down to how well his receivers are working.
yeah,
But but we got to be able to stop Holmes. Mahomes has got to he's got what he doesn't have as many great receivers as we do, and McCaffrey is Pacheco is more of a straight ahead guy.
mm.
Well, McCaffrey, man, they put him in what three or
Well,
four different positions.
yeah, he's great. He waits for the holes, and then when he sees the holes, he's quick, goes through him, he gets the yards. I love McCaffrey. I didn't
No,
really
he's
understand how
he's
good he
really
was.
he's a smart runner. He's not just he's he's not as much a power runner as he is a smart runner. And like they could start him in the old fullback positions. They can start him,
Yeah,
as an extra tight end. I don't, he's really good. I mean,
yeah,
so they're going to be queued up on him. Their defense has been firing in all eight. I mean, their last several
yeah,
games, their defense has been really good.
yeah.
Um, and
So I think that if you get McCaffrey and Debo firing, because sometimes you'll have all these weapons: Debo, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, and none of them fire.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not, if that happens in the first series, that's bad. I think you can tell a lot in the first series. If the
That's what
40,
I always say. That's what I always say. You can ask Linda. I always say, yeah, give me that first 5 minutes and whoever's in possession and see what happens.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I lately Ayuk has been hot.
yeah. But usually the last couple games, the 49ers have been slow and they've been
Yeah,
behind, and then they go in, you know, into
second
the
half.
second half with, looking like, oh my God, it's over, and then they come back. So I really think that they've got to dominate. Well, first of all, if they win the toss, they're going to wait. They're going to
That's
receive.
right. They'll receive in the second half.
So they got to make Kansas City kick. If they do and get the ball back, that second series where it's their ball, if they go in and score, and they got to score 7. If they score 7, it'll be a good day. If they only score 3, touch and go. If they
Right,
have to punt, they could lose.
right.
On the first series, that'll tell a lot, because you get that touchdown advantage. You're 7 up on Mahomes. He's got to score the next time. If you hold him, and then it's a defensive game, and then if you are able to come back and kick a field goal, and it's 10 nothing, it's going to be the game. No team is going to score more than 30 points. So it's going to be like 24-21 kind of thing, 21-14 kind of
Yeah,
thing.
most people, even if they're picking the Chiefs, they're the highest I've seen was a kind of well, it was a well known female news show anchor, but
Yeah.
she said 40 points for the Chiefs.
40 points. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
for the Chiefs, and I thought that was pretty ridiculous. But
Well,
um,
it could be if the 49ers defense is asleep as they are, but if they come,
yeah, they got to be good. That's where I'm at. I'm going to be looking at how well our defense is working.
okay.
Everybody's there,
Yeah,
so
they're not hurt.
yeah, they're not hurt. Well, they're probably a little hurt, but they're playable.
Yeah.
So it comes down to how well not just our front line but our linebackers. You know, Warner and his gang.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, all right. I'm cross. You want to predict the score? I say, what would he say?
uh, Wishful thinking. Uh, I'd say Niners 30. It's going to be close. So I would say Niners 30. Oh, Chiefs 24. How's that? 30
Oh,
24.
that's funny, because as you were saying that, or as just before, I put down 27-24 Niners.
Right
Because it's
on.
going to come down to, like, someone kicks a field goal to win it. That'll be, it could be tied 24-24, and then Niners ahead 27-24. That's how I feel.
Right.
I think it's going to be under 30. Let's see. Cross our fingers. Wear our red. Okay. All right. Now,
I
Dan.
mean, what it take. Sometimes it's a mistake, and what we're
Yeah.
looking at, both of us are saying they're both going to play well, and it's
Yeah.
going to come down to how well the Niners defense plays. But it also there's the mistake problem, and
Yeah.
the last couple of games the Niners won, there were heavy mistakes being made on the other side, and they were
Yeah.
able to capitalize. So some of it was just blind ass luck. I mean
Yeah.
that Ayuk catch,
Yeah.
that went
Off
up
the
in the
pace.
air. Yeah, that's embarrassing, man. It
Yeah.
hit you in the face, dude, and you couldn't hold on. And there were two times
Yeah.
that another guy got hit in the numbers and he couldn't hold on.
Yeah.
But
Well,
lucky for
look,
us, it was lucky.
Kansas City, they're the kings of drops. They
Yeah,
drop.
that's right. Early in the season, yeah, that's right. They suffered major losses.
All right. So, Dan, I'm going to keep you
You know
around.
what was you know what was surprising was how badly Mahomes reacted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was.
Oh man, he
He's
was
upset.
he
Well,
was not he was way out of sorts. So
yeah.
I think if you can screw him up, that'll throw off his game, right?
Yeah. I think for sure. All right. So, look, I'll keep you around as I say goodbye, because I'm going to tell you about my future gigs. Now, one thing I'm doing on February 26th on the New Eurekan Poets Cafe website, it's a it's a reading of the Shine Challenge 2024, an Ishmael Reed play. Do you know about the Shine Challenge, Dan? Shine? Do you know about Shine? Oh, what happened? You can't hear me. He's gone.
Broke up, but go ahead.
Are you there? All right. So, do you know about Shine? The the Shine is. I froze. I froze. You froze. Okay.
I
Anyway,
think you
I'm
go.
doing something with. Oh, how about now?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Am I? All right. So, have you ever heard of the Shine? Shine toast, they were called, Langston Hughes.
No.
Shine was a black, an African American who survived the Titanic,
Okay.
and he's part of this oral tradition where he's lauded as a hero, and a lot of people in the black community know this. More people everywhere else don't, but Ishmael Reed has written a play about Shine, the man who survived the Titanic, and the circumstances under which the Titanic sunk, and about why Shine is being celebrated in the black community mostly. But the odd thing, well, it's not odd, in oral tradition, things get passed down or things don't. And so this is a kind of a celebration of the oral tradition. It's at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe. Go to Nuyorican, NUYORICAN.org for tickets. I have a small role, but it'll be worth the price to see it online. You know about the Nuyorican Poets Cafe?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool place. It's a cool place. I'm not going to be there live. They're presenting it at the Nuyorican, so that's cool. I'm doing that on February 26th. You can get tickets. I'm also going to be at the LA Improv on Sunday, February 18th, Hollywood Improv on Melrose. I'm in a group of comics. There's like 5-6 of us in a show. It's $12 for tickets. $4 p.m. in the afternoon, Sunday, the 18th, at the Hollywood Improv. So,
Well, you're a traveling man. You're a
yeah.
traveling man in February here.
So I'm going to do that, and then at the Rogue Festival in March 2nd, Saturday 2 p.m., Saturday March 2nd at 9:30 p.m. So a two for that day. I'm doing my a version, a new iteration of my show, Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, vegan trans dad. I'm doing that show, and so it's an eye opener. It's March 2nd, also March 3rd at 2 p.m., and March 7th at 5:30 p.m., and March 9th at 5 p.m. So that's the Rogue Festival in Fresno. Fresno, a city in the middle of the Central Valley, but considered on the outskirts of everywhere. San Francisco, LA, but Fresno has a scene. It's got a scene.
Yeah, they actually have a couple of decent restaurants too. So
Yeah, so I'm at the Rogue Festival, so make a plan to get to Fresno March 2nd or 3rd or March 7th or 9th. I'm going to be there. That's for Emil Amok, Lost NPR host. And the final announcement, I'm at Orlando in May, no dates yet, but I'm in New York City for the Fringe Festival, the New York City Fringe, April 5th, April 8th, April 13th, 19th, and 21st, different times at Under St. Mark's Theater. That again, Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, new iteration, Lost NPR host, Wiley Filipino, vegan trans dad. That's the name of that show. So it's a show. It's
vegan trans. You're going sexual on me, man.
Vegan trans dad. You got to see it to understand it. You got to see it to understand it. Vegan trans dad. I do funny things with carrots.
Oh no.
Oh, so anyway, I wanted to, get a reaction.
I got all kinds of follow-up jokes on that, but
Okay. Well, eggplant, that'll do too.
Where's that? Oh no.
Okay.
That's the worst possible thing. Japanese eggplant, maybe, but
Yeah. So hey, Dan, look. So thank you. I just wanted to say my dates with a person in public or a person like you here with me. But look, go Niners tomorrow.
well, but today's Friday, right?
Oh, darn. Okay, go Niners on Sunday. Go Niners on Sunday.
Okay.
Uh, I hope. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the halftime show. Usher's going to be. I like it. I love Usher.
Was it Usher? Yeah,
Usher's.
yeah. He's getting pretty tasteful. I would
Yeah.
like to see a uh, a show with Usher and Justin Timberlake
Usher.
going against each
Who
other.
ripped off whom? Huh?
Yeah, yeah. It would be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun.
It would be fun. You
Uh,
know,
hey,
they're
since
about
I
the
left,
same age.
yeah,
Usher's got superior dance skills, but it would be fun to watch Timberlake catch up. You know?
since I last talked to you, they had the Grammys, and
Yeah, yeah,
Taylor Swift was big, and she's going to be big at the Super Bowl.
yeah.
What do you think?
Are they going to
She's
cut
all
away
right.
to Taylor all the time? I don't know. I don't.
I
It
I don't
depends
mind
on
if
how
they come
Kelsey
away.
does. It depends on if Kelsey's active. They're going to cut away.
Yeah, I
If
think any cutaway there, that's cool. I don't mind.
if he flubs, he drops a ball. They won't cut away.
Well, they might catch her and go. You
Oh,
know,
remember a couple of games back when she was celebrating because they won, and just before the end of the game, he had caught a great pass. He had a terrific series that game. He caught
yeah,
a 4 or 5 passes, and she said the F word in total happiness,
yeah,
absolute glee.
yeah.
And people said, well, I don't know if that's really good. The right wingers, she used that kind of language around Kelsey's mom. Kelsey's mom probably uses worse language than that.
Well, yeah, Kelsey's mom, she's a salty gal.
Yeah, no kidding, man. I mean, her personality is really good. It shows all the time when she gets interviewed. It's really good. I raised those two clowns.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't know them like I know them. So yeah, they're
Uh,
funny. They're funny guys, man.
all right,
Very
Dan. Well, listen. Good luck. Thank you for being here on Emil Amok's Takeout. Always
It's always
appreciate.
a pleasure and an honor, actually, to speak with you,
We
to
got into
spare
some.
the time and
We
talk
got
to real politics. We're talking real politics.
we got some stuff in. We got some stuff in.
We
Okay.
ain't, well, yeah.
Yeah,
Is the Fresno gig Fresno Fringe?
yeah. It's
Yeah, yeah.
called the Rogue Fest. The
Oh,
Rogue Fest.
Rogue.
Rogue. Rogue. The Rogue
Rogue.
Festival.
Just like ragu.
Yeah, but yeah, try to make it one of the nights. One of the nights.
March
It's
2nd. How many nights are you on?
March 2nd, and then 3rd in the afternoon. March 2nd in the afternoon and evening. March 3rd in the afternoon matinee. That's Saturday and Sunday, and then there's a Thursday, that the next Thursday and the next Friday and the next Saturday. So that's God. I should have these memorized by heart, but I don't. But no, March 2nd and 3rd, and then Thursday, March 7th, and then Saturday, March 9th. And Saturday, March 9th is at 5 p.m. Thursday, March 7th is at 5:30 p.m. And then so bring the Filipinos. I talk about Filipinos a lot. So, all right, Dan, thank you, man. Be cool. Thank you very much. Go Niners.
Peace
Peace
out.
out.
Peace.
Peace out. Peace out. There he goes. Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies professor, San Francisco State University. My friend of the show. Yeah, the Gray Panthers. We got to bring back the Gray Panthers. Yeah, I could be like you don't have to be gray to be in the Gray Panthers. All right. So thank you. If you missed any or all of this show, go back and use your finger and repeat, rerun, or whatever they rewind. I'm at, you can watch this on YouTube at Emil Amok 1. You can watch it on Twitter at Emil Amok. You can watch it on Facebook at emilguillermo.media. All those places you can catch it. You can email me at amok.com. Hey, look, thank you. Really, thank you for being here. I know, as they say in the airline business, we know you have a choice. You can fly an airline with door bolts or fly an airline with no door bolts. Your choice, right? But thank you. We're usually here 2 p.m. Pacific live, sometimes recorded. But check us out. The YouTube channel, Emil Amok 1. Look at past shows. Look at the PETA podcast. That's also on there. We end our shows with a little meditation because we like meditation. A little self-love. Self-love. We dare. Because you put it out, it comes back twofold. My mother would even say that. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Go Niners. Till next time, I'm Emil Guillermo.